Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast in association with symcotraining. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Listen, again, it's a thank you to all of you listening to this, watching on YouTube. We know most of you people listen to this podcast, but again, our last episode, it hit another record. It just keeps growing and growing. So all you people who are subscribing, thank you so much. All you people who are sending this on to your sales team, thank you so much. Again, the goal of this podcast is to get as many of these ideas out in the motor trade as we possibly can. And you know what? It's working. I can't believe we started this in the first lockdown because I needed something to do. And this podcast is really just growing legs. So thank you. Now, listen, today, the conversation I want to talk to you about is what makes a good sales trainer? What makes a great sales trainer? Now, don't worry, I'm not going to be arrogant enough to say, oh, I'm a great trainer. Look at me. Far from it. But I've seen lots of great trainers in my time. I'm fortunate enough to, I probably go on more training than the delegates do on our training courses. And of course, we have to, because we have to stay sharp and we have to be right at the forefront. Regular listeners to the podcast will know that I go to the National Automotive Dealers Association conference every year in the States. I think the one coming up soon, thanks to Patrick Tessier, this is going to be number 22, I believe I've been to. 22 of them. And I always like to go and see what's fresh and what's new. And I love to see the trainers there and what separates the good from the great, how they engage with an audience. I've been fortunate enough to speak at the Australian Automotive Dealers Association conference, automotive management with their conference. In Ireland, I've spoken at their conference as well. So I've been so fortunate to speak at so many conferences, as you would expect, and see some really great communicators. And the reason why I wanted to do this is not because I think I'm a great communicator. I think I hold my own. I think I'm still learning my trade, and I've been doing this for 23 years. But the reason why I want to say this is every now and then, I'm going to rephrase that. Regularly, at least once a month, I run a sales training course, and someone will stay behind and say, oh, I tell you what, that was a great course. Best one I've ever been on. How do I become a sales trainer? What do I need to do to become a sales trainer? And I get that all the time. Now, my standard response is, hey, well, listen, if you want to be a great sales trainer, I can point you in the right direction, but we'd never employ anyone that we're working with. My standard joke is, could you imagine the conversation with someone like Gavin Hides, where, hello, Gavin, okay, you're a great sales manager, okay, you're a great head of business, we've just poached him. That would be quite suicidal for any work I wanted to do with that owner of that dealer group going forward. So we always say we will never employ people that we're working with. That, for me, just would not be right, okay? So if you're one of the people we're working with and listen to this thinking, oh, great, I want to be a trainer, okay, we'll point you in the right direction, okay? But we're never, ever going to employ you because that just doesn't work. But even so, I was the same person. I sat on training courses and I'd see some people there, like I can remember a course with Brian Milstead. Went, wow, okay, he's really got my attention there, and held it for the whole time there. Conversely, I've been on some other courses, I won't name any names now, where I lost the will to live. Death by PowerPoint. Okay, it's almost like, goodness sake, are you just going to sit there and read everything that's on the slide? Why don't you go and have yourself a break and just give me the clicker and we'll read through all of it. In fact, better still, why don't you just email it through to me beforehand? Well, in fact, I've got to go one stage further. So often, I've been on, we've run training courses for OEMs, dealer groups. I'll get someone who's not been there. I'll just say, hey, can you just send through the slide deck of your course just so I can go through it? And we always say, no, Now, it's not because we're protecting our intellectual property or anything like that. We don't have slide decks like you're thinking about, because they're the ones that put people to sleep. You see, for me, a good sales trainer is really simple. Great sales trainer is just a great sales manager. That's all. I just think what makes a good sales manager, a business manager, a coach in a car dealership is the same thing that makes a great trainer, in my opinion. Someone who doesn't mind rolling sleeves up, getting involved, and showing someone how to do it. Again, here's the other thing. Whenever we turn up to our partners we work with, we have a program where we turn up once a month. Okay, and we do coaching on site with the guys, and we get involved with real customers and deal with salespeople and show them how to, I don't know, sell the value-added products, how to make those prospecting calls, how to close someone that says, oh, no, I don't need Gap. I'm a safe driver. I've been driving for 30 years. Okay. Because people learn more when they see it, I believe, than they're actually just talking about it. Okay. And it's all about, for me, a great sales trainer is a great sales manager. In fact, I've got to say this as well. Our philosophy, when we turn up to a deal group to do some work with them, and our philosophy is always to turn the management team into the trainers. I always like to think the management team is one of our trainers. And we try to teach them the same way as we'd want our trainer to deal with that salesperson, that after sales, that service advisor when they're in the dealership. So let's have a look at this. What makes that great trainer then? Firstly, this is going to be no rocket science, but I've seen so many trainers get this wrong. In fact, I'll share this with you. We're currently looking for a trainer at the moment, and I'm looking for a great trainer. Okay, not good. They need to be great. So what I'll say is, I'll say to anyone, I say, listen, just send me a quick video on yourself. Okay, 5 minutes long, not much longer than that. WhatsApp it to me. Okay, get the video to me any which way you can. Now, WhatsApp, it limits the size you can send it, so that's almost better sometimes because I want to get a feel for who they are. Okay, or send me a link to YouTube or get a video to me any which way you can. And I say, just train me on anything. Okay, I just want to see what you like because you know so much of the training at symcotraining is in this medium nowadays. Okay. Over 50% of our training is digital content now. And I suppose that's where the world has gone since COVID. Also, it's so much easier to get me to Canada now this way, so much easier to get me to Melbourne this way than it is jumping on a plane and having a fly out there. So we're doing more and more of it. And listen, everyone is. So I want to see how they react with the camera. So the first thing is, same as if you're doing a see it now video in your car dealership, make sure you're looking at the audience. Look down into the camera because eye contact. Now, I know you'll listen to this. Most of our people listen to this podcast, but if you're one of the people that's really interested in how to be a good trainer, go and find this on YouTube. And I hope you can see how I'm looking at you. Now, here's the funny thing. When people record themselves on an iPhone, so often they look at themselves in the recording. And what's happening is their eyes are offset, kind of like this. At the moment, they're looking at themselves there to see if the message is right. Great if you're talking to a mirror, but you lose that eye contact. Okay. So we asked people just to send us through a video to see how they come across in this medium. From there, I said, yeah, I tell you what, I quite like you. Andrew Clark, one of our great trainers. I said, yeah, really like that. Then I asked him to turn up and teach me a lesson on anything for half an hour. And I'm going to tell you what I get. I get 3 types of trainers turn up for an interview. Okay, and they can train me on anything, on objection handling skills, vehicle help sales, red and amber work, see it now videos, how to do that. I don't care what they teach me on. And I want to get a feel for, number one, do they know the subject? Do they know what it's all about? So this is the first trainer that turns up. They go off with a PowerPoint presentation and they start clicking through it. And I see that they're reading from the slides there. And halfway through, I do this every time, okay? I just get my hand and I lower down the screen of the laptop. I say, keep going. And you know what? The amount of people, I said, no, forget that. Just tell me about RTI or Gap Insurance or Red and Amber work. Come on, tell me from the heart. You see, because I want to know, do they know it? See, a great trainer is not a presenter. A great trainer is a communicator that has a conversation. That's for me. By the way, these are my views on what a good trainer is. You might think it's something completely different, okay? But if someone's just clicking through that PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to tell you, not interested, okay? Oh, number two, I just had this recently. And if you're one of these people listening to this, I might offend you now, and I really hope I don't. That's not my intention. It's just there is a place for this person, okay? But just not in Simco training. We always say in Simco training, those who can do, those who can't teach, or those who can do, those who can't train. And I believe that you've got to be able to do it. I want someone that's been ahead of business and run the biggest BMW dealership in Scotland. I want someone who's actually been there on a Sunday afternoon when everyone they spoke to all week has turned to shite. They're down the Sadams for the people who know our material, okay, where everyone they speak to turns to crap. And they'll go be motivated, enthusiastic, and go and help someone to buy a car. That can be really difficult sometimes. And as a trainer, if you haven't been in that situation, I don't think you've got empathy with that person. When someone turns around and says, you know what, the air conditioning service, I've never had it serviced before. Okay, I don't really need to do that. Okay, I want a trainer dealing with a service advisor that's had that objection from customers plenty of times before so they can empathize and say, listen, I've had that. I know where you're coming from. This is how I've done it. Okay. Now, by the way, I don't think they need to be the best at what they've done. As a salesperson, I think I held my own. I think I learned a lot more on how to be a good salesperson too long into the business, okay? I started selling cars because I liked cars. I wanted a car, okay? So lots of people I was 17 years old, and you've heard my story before. Go back and listen to the first podcast and you'll hear about the story there, okay? It's only when I really focused on being the best salesperson I ever could. I learned lots of things from my first manager, Mr. Mel Deeth. There's a guy called Rod Pether I learned so much from. He was a competitor dealer, and he drove me home because I lost my license. That's a whole new story. Speeding when I had a permit to drive effectively for the people listening in the UK. It was in Australia. So my competitor drove me home to and from work, and he'd coach me on the way home about the customs I dealt with. You got Rex Keane. I owe so much to Rex Keane at Tony Island Holden. Okay, I learned a hell of a lot there. So there's so many people that I've learnt so much from, but I really learned how to sell kind of myself. Now, podcasts weren't out back then, but I devoured books. I would listen to books. There's a book. My son's 17, and I've got him to read this now. Okay, and he's into it as well. But well, I don't want to give out so many books there because there's just almost too many books out there. But How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's not a book for sad people who can't get friends. It's one of the greatest books on selling ever. Okay. And that I devoured that on audio cassettes. Oh, sorry. A few young people listen to this now. A cassette. That's how we used to transport music in the olden days. Okay. So what I do is back to looking for that good trainer halfway through them presenting something. Okay. If they're presenting how to sell air conditioning services in a car dealership, I shut the PowerPoint presentation down on purpose. I say, keep going. Because if they don't know the material, I think they're going to be asked a question from someone in an audience, okay, from someone on a training course. And if they don't know, if they can't help it, if they haven't been there, they lack. Now, here's the one that happened recently. I'm looking for a trainer at the moment. This is why I'm doing this podcast. And there's someone was recommended through my LinkedIn account. And this person worked for a big dealer group in the UK. I said, brilliant. Okay, that sounds good. I went and had a look at some reviews, and this person had great reviews. So I just went back through their history and worked out what position they held in the motor trade. Had they been a sales manager, a head of business, an after-sales manager? What had they actually done? And no disrespect to this person, but that person had never worked in the industry. Okay. Again, I was asked by one HR director, and I probably offended this person. But she said to me one day, she said, oh, I've got this trainer. He's a brilliant trainer. I worked with him before in XYZ industry, whatever it was. Okay. And by the way, I met this guy. He is great. He'll be a brilliant trainer. And she said, can you just spend a day with him and just download all your knowledge? Okay. Just so he's got all of that material there. No, I can't. Okay. I could give him a workbook. I could give him a training course, but I can't give him 30 years. I started when I was 17. Okay. I'm 50 now. What's that? Too many years, 33 years. I can't give 33 years in a day's course. So, well, can you do it in 2? No, it just can't be done. Okay. There's the old 10,000 hours to master anything. And I don't think it's fair on anyone. Now, don't get me wrong. That person will have a place for brand new people that come into the industry and don't know anything themselves. But when they've got that experienced salesperson that's been in the business for 20 years, okay, you've got to win their confidence very quickly. And they say, hey, how do you deal with a customer that says, yeah, it's great, but I need to go and check with my wife? That trainer needs to have some different ways to be able to deal with that objection. And they need to know it off the cuff. They can't say, I heard that somewhere. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. As a trainer, there's lots of tricks that trainers get taught. Little things like, if they don't know the answer, that's a really good question. Let's ask the audience. What do you think, guys? Guys, you could do that. You only do it once or twice and they think, hold on, this guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. Okay. People aren't stupid who we're training. So you've got to be in the industry. Now, here's the other thing. The next person I get, and by the way, this podcast might cost us a lot of business, but I get the OEM trainer. Again, if you're an OEM trainer, listen to this. I'm not putting you all in the one category, but too often I get an OEM trainer who either has never done it in the real world or done it 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And actually, is that what really happens now? Guys, I've got to tell you, so much of our business we get from people that say, yeah, we've gone on the manufacturer training courses, but we're looking for you guys now because you guys are real world. And it's not the trainer's fault at the OEM. They've either did it 20, 30 years ago themselves, or more likely, most OEM training now, it's more about the product. And it has to be because, you know, if EV's coming along and it's like there's so much there, okay, the art of sales training, they might not have, okay? Now, also, an OEM, you get an OEM will have an outside training agency and they're dealing with another OEM who's not actually dealt with them. So you've got two people. Good, I'm offending everyone with this, but you've got two groups of people, okay? One that's employing this agency, but the agency may not have done it in the real world for a very, very long time, but the person they're selling to has not done it either. Therefore, the content that's given to the salesperson on the floor, actually, it might not be relevant anymore. It needs to change all the time. So anyway, they're the trainers that we don't look for. We don't look for people who haven't done it. We don't look for people who haven't got the knowledge. How to train someone to be a trainer? Guys, actually, that's the easy bit. Training someone to how to be a trainer, okay, to engage people, is the same as what you do when you're selling a car. Let me tell you now, if you listen to this, you want to be a great trainer. When we have a room of 15, 20 people, okay? Oh, and by the way, something you might not know yet. Some people, if you're aspiring to be a trainer or a good coach, you think, the smaller the group, the better. Let me tell you, the smaller the group, the better you have to be. That's hard work. The bigger the group, the easier it is. I know it sounds the wrong way around, but trust me, the bigger the group, the easier you've always got someone there that you can bounce off. The smaller the group, you might end up just doing all the talking and giving all the answers. It's harder to get interaction. So anyway, what does a good sales trainer do? It's what a good salesperson does. A good salesperson, it's not a presentation of the car. It's a conversation. You say something, they say something. You say something, they say something. For me, a good trainer isn't doing all the talking. A good trainer is relying on who, what, when, where, why, and how. Oh, and by the way, I've got to talk about Guy Orman now. Now, Guy Orman, friend of the show, Guy Orman gave me a job, my first job. No, that's not true. I was going to say first job in the training in the motor trade in the UK. It wasn't actually. But Guy Orman, he famously says, and I get this, he says, hey, I've never sold a car in my life. Okay. However, Guy was very, very smart. He employed lots of people, had huge experience there. But he did teach me this, the who, what, when, where, why way of training. Okay. In fact, there's a guy called Will Holden. He referred this to as guided discovery. Okay. Who, what, when, where, why, how. So take any subject. Let's sell gap insurance. Okay. Who should be selling gap insurance? Well, salesperson and the business manager. When should we be selling gap? How should we be selling gap? Where in the process should we do it? He calls it the who, what, when, where, why. And it's kind of guided discovery. And listen, that is a great training technique. But, you know, even Guy Orman said, but you got to have the raw knowledge underneath it to get that out. Because otherwise, you're a facilitator, not a trainer. And whoever's the strongest person in that audience, they're all going to do what they do. And if someone says, I really do it this way because I sold 18 billion cars a year and I'm a genius there. Okay, everyone else thinks, okay, that's the way it needs to go. But that might not work for everyone in your group. Okay, but it is a good technique to remember because a great trainer is actually getting feedback from the audience. A great trainer is actually having a conversation. Okay. Hey, here's the next thing. In our training courses, we use humor. Got to tell you guys, I'm not naturally a witty, funny type of person. I go to the National Automotive Dealers Association, and I'm actually the shy person there. I don't mingle lots. I actually don't do automotive management conferences or car dealer conferences, stuff like that, because I'm actually just the shy person. And there's so many other people that are great at networking and let me tell you about my widget and let me do this and that. And I've met some great people along the lines there. But I try and avoid those types of events wherever I can. Now, having said that, I'll go to the National Automotive Dealers Association, the Australian Automotive Dealers Association conference, and I know a group of people there that we meet up with all the time there. And a lot of people don't believe me this when I say I'm the shy one there, but I actually am. And a great trainer uses humor, which I'm not naturally witty. It's the same silly little jokes I have all the time. It's the same little one-liners come out because when we laugh, endorphins flow. We're talking about the audience now. And when the endorphins flow, they're the bits that make you feel good. Okay. We tend to remember the next bit. Here's the next bit that I find a good trainer does. You've got to get people to remember as much as you possibly can. There's no point just going down humor. You don't want to be like that great Billy Connolly comedian, okay? Or Mickey Flanagan or something like that. Oh, I went and seen Mickey Flanagan. He was brilliant. Okay, what do you say? Can't remember. I was laughing all night, but you can't remember a single joke because you see, you've crossed the line into not an enter-trainer. And we do believe our trainers need to be enter-trainers, but the laughter is a method behind the madness to get people to remember things. If it's just laugh the whole time, go and be a comedian, okay? But what we need to do is put some humor into it as much as we possibly can. That's what a great trainer does. But also, to get people to remember things, it's stories. People remember stories. Tell you one of the little tricks we do. We tell people half of a story right at the beginning. Not the whole story, half of the story. And then, I'll tell you that after lunch. Okay, I'll finish that off tomorrow morning. We leave people hanging. Think about a great suspense movie. Don't they almost, sometimes movies, I've seen this now, John Grisham movies, right, about his books, they do this sometimes where they have the end of the movie right at the beginning, okay, or the middle of it, right, the middle of the movie in the plot line right at the beginning, because it gets that curiosity. In fact, I've got to tell you a story about Billy in a second. People want to know, it's about Billy. How does that work? That gets that intrigue. And that's where those stories can really help. Okay. So often when I start a training course, we'll talk about do introduction. Oh, and by the way, I personally am not a fan of the hour-long icebreakers. You know, all that bollocks where interview your partner beside you, tell us 3 interesting things about your person. Okay, let's do this icebreaker, that icebreaker. Guys, when I first started training, I did icebreakers as well. Okay, that's because I was limited, light on content. And I find lots of trainers use them to fill stuff on. Oh, by the way, here's the other thing. If you've been on our training courses, there's nothing winds up the delegates more than being there for a 2-day training course on something they could have done in an hour and a half or 3 hours, because it's all games and role plays and poker games and do all this sort of stuff. Don't get me wrong. We'll do some of these things, but we limit it to the point. Okay. If you're just doing games at the whole time there, goodness me, people are lacking on the content. People want what's going to make them money. Okay, people want. In fact, I've got to say, Tom Stuker. Hi, Tom. I know you're a fan of the show as well. Tom Stuker is, I think he was voted one of the best speakers at the National Automotive Dealers Association conference. Don't quote me on this, Tom. You'll email in and tell me this, or you'll text me. Sorry, Tom. I'll see you soon. I think it was 8 times or something like that there. When I did my first big gig, I was in Australia. And I was speaking for Patrick Tessier's Australian Automotive Dealers Association. And I did the conference. I started off with saying, hey, this is who I am and why you should listen to me because I'm an expert, all that bollocks. And Tom got me afterwards. And I really appreciated him doing this. He said, yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed all that. But the whole start of it, he said, forget all of that. That's all the crap around the sausage roll. Just give people the meat straight away, okay? If the meat's any good, you don't need to tell them about all the other stuff. Let that come out afterwards. You get a trainer that turns around and says, I've sold, by the way, I'll tell you this now. The most cars I sold in 1 month is 63. I'm proud of that. It was with Roger Cunliffe in a Nissan dealership in High Wycombe. Okay, now that's not really fair. 63 in 1 month sounds all right there, but it was in a plate change month. Okay, so I'm a decent salesperson. I don't think I was ever the best salesperson. Okay, but I worked harder than everyone else there. Okay, but you know what? I can't remember the last time I managed that on a training course. Because actually, if the meat, the information's good enough, people don't want to hear how many cars I've sold. People don't want to know that. They want to know, how do I deal with a customer that says, I want to go and think about it and get them across the line now? How do I deal with a customer that says, oh, I think that paint and fabric protection is a post polish? How do I overcome that objection? How do I slow down a customer who just says, what's your best price, best price, best price? People want the meat. And here's the thing. We jam so much meat into our training courses. They always finish at 6 o'clock. Okay. They go on. And so many times people come out and go, goodness me, that course went so well. I had so much information there. In fact, we have one criticism. Sometimes we jam too much into our training courses. I'll never change that. Tell you why? We want to give people as much as we possibly can, because everyone will pick out a little different part from that smorgasbord or the buffet, depending on what country you are. Listen to this. But give people the meat, give them the information. Back to the point I was trying to make. One of the trick trainers we use, okay, right at my introduction, okay, I'll turn around and say, in fact, I tell the story how I got into training. And I started with the phrase of what people are thinking there. I'll start off with something along the lines of saying, hey guys, there's an old cliche in the world of training that says, those who can do, those who can't teach, or those who can do, those who can't train. Have you heard that before? Invariably, someone in the audience has heard it. I say, is there any truth in that? The brave person says, well, wait and see. Okay, yes, I think it is. I say, you're right. And I'm sitting in front of you because of that statement. And this is true. I was working for a man called Roger Cunliffe. He was the dealer principal in a Nissan dealership in High Wycombe. I was the sales manager there at the time. A guy turned up to do some training with my salespeople. Okay. And we had various people over the time. This person come directly from Nissan. Okay. And bless this guy, it's not his fault. And if you've been on a training course, you've heard this before. But this guy was about to teach my guys on training in the real world. Okay. And I said to him, hey, mate, when's the last time you actually sold a car? Which I thought was a fair question. And this guy said, well, I've had placement. Now, guys, I was in the country for probably 18 months at that point, something like that, maybe 12 months, I don't know. But I'd never heard the phrase placement before. Maybe placement was what the British called a business manager or some handover specialist, but it wasn't. Placement for this particular young lad worked out, sorry, wasn't that young to be fair, it's probably my age, but placement worked out that when he left university, he got a job with the OEM. He went into a car dealership for 2 months to learn how the process would work. And I was a young, cocky sales manager back then. I said, oh, great. Was that 2 whole months, was it? Oh, well done. Now you're going to be teaching my guys how to sell a car. Guys, you know what it's like when someone comes from the manufacturer. Sometimes we got to tell them what they want to hear. You got to get the right tick in the right box for dealer operating standards and stuff like that. That's what I did with this guy. I said, okay, I'm sure in that 2 months you sold lots of cars. And guys, I lost the will to live when he said, oh, no, I wasn't down at that level. I was up at your level. What? So you're not sold cars? Now, listen, long story short, and if you want, go and listen back to the beginning of these podcast series and you hear the whole story there. But that's how I got into training. Okay. I got into training because I actually kicked the guy out of the dealership. I had to phone up and apologize to his boss. Thankfully, the company I was working for at the time, they backed me. There's a guy called Mike Thompson, again, a fan of the show. Hi, Mike. How are you? Hope you're back in Dubai, I understand, at the moment. He backed me, okay, and said, no, we're not getting rid of Simon. He's a great sales manager. But part of the deal is I had to phone and apologize to this guy's boss. And he said, why'd you kick him out? I said, because he can't do it. He said, do you reckon you could do a better job? I said, stand on my head. I said, how? And here's the key that what makes a great trainer. I'd show them how to do it, not tell them. Show people how to do it. Think about this. If you're learning to fly a plane, do you think I'm just going to let you read through a PowerPoint presentation of how to fly my plane? Okay, go through all the knowledge there. Go and do the commercial pilot. There's 15 different exams you got to do to get your ATPL, your airline transport pilot's license. But just even a private pilot's license, there's still 12 exams currently. I think someone's done it years ago. But you're not going to read through all that stuff. I'm going to throw you the keys to the plane and say, there you go, good luck, crack on. No. They'll make sure you read the knowledge, you know the knowledge. And then someone will show you how to do it, and then you'll do it. So to take off, they'll say, right, this is what we're going to do when we're going to take off. They have dual controls in most light aircraft, okay? And what they'll do is they'll go off, okay, show you how to do it. They'll even say, follow me through. And then after that, they say, right, you have a go, and I'm going to follow you through. That's what a great coach does. They'll show people how to do it, not just tell them. But now I'm talking to the sales managers, the business managers. Be honest with me. Are you one of the guys that you're nervous to go and speak to a customer for fear you don't close the deal and you lose all credibility in front of the sales team? Is that you? Guys, when I started as a trainer, that was me too. In fact, I do speak to customers. We still speak to customers as much as we can. It keeps us sharp, keeps our training relevant. But go tell you what, we're rusty sometimes. And I know I'm rusty because I'm not doing it as much as I'd like to. I'm trying to run the company. I'm trying to run the podcast and all that sort of stuff. That's just natural. And there's a fear that I go out there and I fuck it up. But what I always say is, hey guys, I'm a bit rusty. Let's go and try this technique there. Tell you a little secret. People learn more when I stuff it up than when I get it right anyway. Not that I'm trying to stuff it up, bear in mind, okay? But the credibility goes to the roof because you know what? The amount of times I get people saying, wow, a trainer that actually phoned a customer, a trainer that's actually gone and spoke to a customer. Okay, your credibility goes to the roof because let me tell you, it just doesn't happen. Okay, and you know what? Your credibility goes through the roof. They know you can do it, but you've got to have the knowledge to do it to start with. And bear in mind, you are probably going to be a business manager or a sales manager or an after sales manager because you were good at the job. That's why you got the position. Okay. So actually, as a good coach, go out and show people how to do it. Just don't tell them how to do it. Don't worry about your credibility because what will happen is when you go out and stuff it up, okay, you go, oh, got that wrong. What should I have done? Let's try it. And next time you won't stuff it up. Okay. So what makes a good trainer, a good coach? There's some of my ramblings. Okay. So if you've got to this, chances are you might want to be a trainer. Here's a challenge. I'm looking for a great trainer at the moment. I want a great trainer. I find it really hard to find someone. So if you've listened to this and you're thinking, yeah, I've got the knowledge there. Yeah, I could be a trainer. If you've ever sat on that training course thinking, I could do what he or she done. Okay. Actually, have you ever sat on a training course and think, goodness me, that was crap. I could do a lot better than what they're doing. In fact, even now, if you're listening to this thinking, I'm shit, I could do a better job than that, I want to hear from you. So do me a favor, reach out to me. Okay. So there's so many different ways to get hold of me. Okay. The easiest way is send me an email direct. My email is really simple. It's symcotraining.co.uk. And Simon is just Simon at symcotraining. If you do it to office or something like that, that'll get through to me as well. Okay. Here's my personal cell phone. Cell phone? Listen, depends on what country you're going to be. Mobile phone. Okay. Listen to this. You're going to have to write this down. Okay, so it's +44 7 949 240 550. I say that again to you because you're probably looking for a pen now. You ready? It's +44 7 949 240 550. And just say, you know what? I think I could be a trainer. Send me a WhatsApp message. Okay. Send me a little WhatsApp video of you and say why you think you could be a good trainer. Okay. I want to see that you can communicate. Think about some of the stuff that I've talked about here, because that's what I want to see. And also, so that's my personal email address. That's my personal mobile phone. So you can get through to me any which way you want. Okay. Even if you want to pick my brains. Okay. If you're one of our clients, guys, I love you to bits, but I'm not going to employ you. Okay, because it just would not be right. Okay, and also, yes, you really need to be based in the UK. I know we're doing more and more work remotely. Okay, but I really want to be based in the UK because we'd like to get our guys together as quick as we can. The life of a trainer can be a lonely one. We're out on the road lots there, so we want to reduce that as much as we possibly can to start with. Okay, so listen, they're my ramblings of what makes a great trainer. But I'm going to ask you, what do you think makes a great trainer? Okay. Let me know. Send me a message there. Okay. In fact, we know we get lots of trainers listen to this as well. In fact, someone the other day said, all my content just comes from Skippy anyway. And I just listened to his podcast. You know, it's really loving. Someone the other day turned around and said, oh, I've heard this new technique. Okay. And it was clearly, one of the podcasts that we listened to is a man that was doing some work for an OEM. I won't name names. Okay. You know who you are. Okay. I love you to bits. Don't be upset about this. Okay. Just give credit when you use the information. Oh, I got to tell you, that's the other thing a great trainer does. Okay. We'll turn around all the time and say, I stole this idea from David Martin. It's on a scale of 1 to 10. It's that technique there. Oh, I stole this technique from Brian Milstead. Oh, I stole this technique from a salesperson working in a Peugeot dealership in Hastings. We always give credibility to who we stole the idea from for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's true. I think it's right. But here's the real reason. It gives it more credibility. If I turn around and say, I'm the best sales trainer in the world, right, you're going to say, fuck off, who do you think you are? But if I turn around and say, you know what, Peter Smythe said, Skippy, you're one of the best sales trainers I've ever seen in the motor trade. If you're working for Peter Smythe in the Swansway Group, wouldn't that second approach give more credibility anyway. Hi, Peter. I know you listen to the podcast as well. I'm name dropping lots of people who listen to the podcast. I appreciate you all. But guys, if you are interested in being a sales trainer, not just a good sales trainer, not someone who's looking for an easy life. Oh, that's the other one that makes a crap trainer. I'm telling you all the secrets. If I do interview you, okay, and I say, so tell me, why do you want to be a trainer? Good question to start with, right? And when I hear someone say, wow, I'm looking for an easier life, okay, because, work in the motor trade, it's long hours and I want to see my family. So, my goodness, how long does this interview have to last? It's one of those. You managers out there, have you ever interviewed someone you think, where's a good time to stop the interview because I want to get out of here? Let me tell you, training, if you're looking for an easier life, is not for you. And what I often do with those people is I just read through our schedules of where we are. Because sometimes people see a swan into a dealership at 9 o'clock, swan out at 6 o'clock and think, wow, what a great life there. Not realizing that that person's grabbing a plane to drive to fly to Dublin to pick up a hire car to drive down to Cork because they've got to do some work with Bill Keary after that. Okay, so listen, I've got to tell you there, if you're looking for an easy life, maybe that's not the right approach for you. But if you're looking for a rewarding job, let me tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than when I get those texts and emails. I get them through regularly from people like you saying, hey, Skip, thank you very much for this technique, that technique. In fact, there's a guy called Jonathan Wright. Again, I'm trying to name drop everyone that I can think of watching and listen to the podcast. Jonathan Wright, I trained him. He's a new client we're doing some work with next year. And I just come back from seeing him. And he said, hey, listen, the reason why I'm here is you trained us 13 years ago. And he said, I still remember when you talked about feasible, flexible. I still remember the Saddams and the Midas touch you talked about. He still had the workbook from 13 years ago. He said, that's why I'm speaking to you guys, because your training was so effective, because it was memorable, because I still remember it now. Okay. And why was I talking about that? Okay, I was talking about that because, I don't know. Okay, but looking for a good trainer, okay, that's memorable. If this is you, reach out. Bit of a ramble there today, but I hope that I want to leave you with this one thing. A great sales trainer is just a great coach. If you're a great sales manager, a good coach, you're a head of business, that's a great coach. I think you make a great sales trainer. Anyway, listen, thank you very, very much. Okay. Send me through a video. Tell me, could that be you? And I'll see you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.